My wife cheated on me with her boss and stole $250, $0 from our joint account to fund their affair, then tried to sue me for half of our house in a custody battle. Now I'm left with nothing but betrayal and legal nightmares. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, writing about how my wife, Lisa, turned out to be a complete monster behind my back. Honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. Married for 8 years, 2 kids, a house we both loved, and a future I thought was secure. But all that changed in the blink of an eye when I stumbled upon something that shattered everything I believed about her and about us. It started with small things. Lisa had been acting a little distant lately, more focused on her phone than usual, canceling plans at the last minute, and being downright bitchy when I asked about it. I brushed it off. At first, maybe she was stressed at work, maybe she was just tired. But then I noticed her spending a lot more time on her laptop after I went to bed, and her phone would be hidden under her pillow. When I asked her about it, she'd roll her eyes and tell me I was paranoid, that she was just checking her emails or planning her next girl's night out. But I knew better. Something was off, and I wasn't the only one who noticed. My gut told me that Lisa was hiding something, and I decided to keep an eye on her. It wasn't easy. I don't want to come across as some creepy stalker, but I couldn't shake the feeling that her sudden change in behavior was tied to something bigger. One night, I decided to check her phone when she was in the shower. I didn't want to be that guy, but I felt I had no choice. I needed to know what was going on. As I scrolled through her messages, I found a series of texts that made my stomach drop. They were from her boss, Mark, and they weren't just casual work chats. They were flirty, intimate, and downright inappropriate. She was calling him babe, telling him she missed him, and talking about sneaking away for a quick lunch date that was clearly more than just a meal. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't believe what I was reading. I kept digging through her messages, and that's when I saw the real bombshell. She had been secretly withdrawing money from our joint account, about $250, $0 over the past few months. I knew we weren't wealthy, but I also knew we weren't broke. That much money. She was funding her affair with Mark, no doubt about it. I felt numb. It was like being punched in the gut, then kicked when I was down. The next day, I confronted her. I waited until she was home from work, trying to hold myself together. When I brought up the messages, her face twisted into a sneer. She told me I was crazy, that I was paranoid, that she was just talking to a coworker about work stress. She denied everything, even when I showed her the bank statements and the texts on her phone. She said I was imagining things, that I was jealous and insecure, and that I was ruining her reputation at work for no reason. I was furious, heartbroken, and confused. How could she lie so easily? How could she betray me like this? I felt like I was losing my mind. I couldn't believe I had trusted her all these years, only to find out she was cheating with her boss and stealing from us. I looked at her with pure disgust, knowing that everything I thought we had was a lie. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. I kept thinking about the money she took, the affair, the lies. I felt betrayed on every level, emotionally, financially, morally. It was like my entire world had crumbled in a matter of hours. I didn't know what to do next, but I knew one thing. I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to figure out a way to fight back, to take control of this mess she created. And that's when I started planning my revenge, even if I didn't know exactly what that would look like yet. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Lisa's lies kept piling up, and the betrayal stung. Worse than I ever thought possible. I felt like a fool for not seeing it sooner, for trusting her all these years. But the worst part was the money. $250, $0 gone just like that, drained from our joint account to fund her affair with Mark. I couldn't get over how casually she had stolen from us, as if it was nothing. That money was supposed to be for our kids' college fund, for our retirement, for emergencies. Instead, she used it to fuel her selfish desires, to keep Mark happy, to live a double life. I knew I had to act fast. I started digging into our bank accounts, trying to trace every withdrawal, every transfer. I wanted to know exactly how much she took, where it went, and how deep this rabbit hole went. I also contacted our bank, froze the joint account, and requested copies of all transactions. The bank was cooperative, and I sat there staring at the detailed statements, feeling a mixture of rage and helplessness. How could she do this? How could she betray me and our family like this? I also started gathering evidence. I saved all the texts, took screenshots, printed bank statements. I needed proof that she was cheating, proof that she was stealing, so I could confront her properly or take legal action if it came to that. The more I uncovered, the more I realized this was bigger than just an affair. She was manipulating the situation, lying through her teeth, trying to spin it all in her favor. One night I caught her in a lie. She told me she was working late, but I found a receipt for a hotel stay from a week earlier, paid for with a different credit card. When I confronted her, she got defensive, saying she was visiting a friend and that I was overreacting, but I knew better. I knew she was with Mark, probably in that hotel, and that she had been lying about her whereabouts for weeks. That was the moment I realized how deep her deception went. She wasn't just cheating, she was actively covering her tracks, hiding every piece of the puzzle. I started to feel a mix of disgust and resolve. I couldn't let her walk all over me, not after everything. I decided I needed to get legal advice. I found a lawyer who specialized in family law and financial disputes. Sitting across from her, I explained everything: her affair, the money theft, the lies. She denied everything at first, acting like I was the crazy one, but I had the evidence. I was ready to take her to court, to fight for what was rightfully mine and our children's. I knew I couldn't trust her anymore, and I wasn't going to let her get away with this. Not without a fight. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act, acting innocent in front of everyone, even trying to turn things around on me. She lied about her whereabouts, claimed I was paranoid and jealous, accused me of trying to ruin her reputation. She even tried to sue me for half the house, claiming she had a right to it because she was entitled. I couldn't believe her audacity. She was trying to manipulate the legal system, to turn the tables on me. But I had enough proof: her texts, the bank statements, the hotel receipts. I was ready to fight her in court, to expose her for who she really was. The more I uncovered, the more I realized this wasn't just about infidelity. It was about betrayal. Every level. She had stolen from us, lied to my face, and tried to manipulate the system to her advantage. My trust was shattered. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. But I also knew I had to stay strong for myself, for my kids, for the little bit of dignity I had left. I had to be prepared for whatever came next, because this nightmare wasn't over yet. And I was determined to come out on the other side, even if that meant tearing everything down to rebuild from the ashes. After I gathered all the evidence, I couldn't just sit around and wait. I knew Lisa was trying to spin everything in her favor, acting innocent as if she hadn't done anything wrong. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I decided I needed to get ahead of her, to make sure I had every angle covered. I hired a private investigator to follow her around, just to confirm her whereabouts and see if she was really telling the truth about her late nights and visits to friends. The Pies reports confirmed my worst fears. She was with Mark almost every night, staying in that hotel, often coming back with new excuses about business trips or urgent meetings. Seeing her with my own eyes, I felt my stomach turn. How could she be so callous? She'd been lying to me for months, maybe longer. It was like I was living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I also started talking to a divorce lawyer just to understand my options. The lawyer was straightforward. Given the evidence, I had a solid case for divorce, and I could pursue financial damages, including the stolen money and possibly even full custody of the kids if Lisa's behavior was deemed harmful enough. Meanwhile, Lisa's attitude grew more brazen. She started threatening me, saying I had no proof and that I was just jealous. She told me I was overreacting, that I was ruining her reputation, and that I'd regret pushing her so far. That's when she dropped the bombshell. She was planning to sue me for half the house, claiming she deserved it because she had contributed during our marriage. She accused me of being a bad husband, of neglecting her and the kids, and insisted she was entitled to a fair share of everything. I couldn't believe the audacity. She's cheating on me, stealing from us, lying through her teeth, and now she's trying to take our house. I knew I had to fight back hard. I started preparing my own legal documents, gathering proof of her infidelity, her theft, and her lies. I also found out that she was trying to drain even more money from the account. She had opened a secret account under her name, funded by the stolen cash, which I only discovered when I checked the bank's online portal. That's when I realized she was trying to hide everything, to run away with the money and leave me holding the bag. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt like I was being torn apart from the inside. One day I was furious, ready to confront her directly. The next I was just numb, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I got here. I had built this life with her, trusted her, loved her. How did it all turn into this? I kept replaying the moments when she lied, the times she dismissed my concerns, the way she manipulated everyone around her. I was starting to see her true face, and it wasn't pretty, but I refused to be a victim. I knew I had to stay strong, stay focused. I reached out to a forensic accountant to help me trace the stolen money, to see exactly where it went. It was like peeling back layers of a rotten onion. Every new discovery made me more determined to fight for what was left of my dignity. I also started talking to friends, family, anyone who would listen. I needed support, and I refused to let her isolate me with her lies and manipulations. The more I dug, the clearer it became that Lisa was willing to do anything to cover her tracks. She was trying to turn everyone against me, even claiming I was abusive or that I was the one cheating, just to muddy the waters. I knew the truth, though. I knew she was the one who betrayed everything we stood for. I just had to hold on, stay calm, and prepare for the storm that was coming. Because if she thought she could walk all over me, she had another thing coming. I was ready to fight for my rights, for my kids, and for the little bit of respect I had left. By the time I had all my ducks in a row, Lisa's game was starting to fall apart. Her lies were unraveling faster than she could spin them. I had the evidence, texts, bank statements, hotel receipts, the Pi's reports, all pointing to one thing. She was cheating, stealing, and trying to manipulate her way out of accountability. But she wasn't going down without a fight. That's when her true colors came out even more. One morning, I woke up to a legal notice from her lawyer. She was suing me for half the house, claiming she had a right to it because she contributed equally during our marriage. The audacity. I knew she was desperate, trying to hold onto everything she could, but I also knew I had to respond. I met with my lawyer again and we drafted a response, detailing everything. The affair, the stolen money, her attempts to hide assets. I wanted to make sure the court saw the full picture. Lisa's attitude became more aggressive. She started making wild accusations, claiming I was abusive, that I was unfit to have custody of the kids. She even tried to paint herself as the victim, spinning tales about how I was controlling and jealous. I couldn't believe how low she was willing to go. Meanwhile, I kept collecting more evidence, preparing for the inevitable legal battle. I knew this wasn't just about the house or the money anymore. It was about her trying to destroy what little stability I had left. Then, the worst happened. Lisa's lawyer filed a motion to freeze our assets, claiming I might try to hide or transfer money to avoid paying her. I was stunned. She was trying to manipulate the court into giving her an advantage, even though I had the proof of her theft. I had to act fast. I worked with my lawyer to counter her accusations, presenting the evidence of her illegal withdrawals and her secret accounts. I also hired a forensic accountant to trace every dollar she stole. It was like fighting a war on multiple fronts. The emotional toll was almost unbearable. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry all at once. I kept asking myself how she could do this to us, how she could lie so easily, steal so blatantly, and then turn around and accuse me of everything wrong. I felt like I was losing my mind, but I also knew I couldn't give up. I had to keep fighting for my rights, for my kids, for whatever shred of dignity I had left. Every day was a new battle, every court hearing a reminder of how far she was willing to go to crush me. Meanwhile, Lisa played the victim at every turn. She told everyone she was the wronged party, that I was trying to ruin her reputation, that I was a terrible husband. She even went as far as hiring her own lawyer to try to sway the court's opinion. But I had the proof, her lies, her theft, her affair. I knew the truth, and I refused to let her manipulate the system to get what she wanted. I was determined to expose her for who she really was. In the back of my mind, I kept thinking about how this all started, how I had trusted her, loved her, built a life with her. And now, it felt like I was fighting to hold onto that life, piece by piece. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready. I was tired of being the victim, tired of feeling betrayed, but I wasn't going to let her win. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, my dignity, my future, and my kids' stability. No matter how dark it got, I refused to let her destroy everything we had. The legal battles dragged on, and every new hearing felt like a fresh punch to the gut. Lisa was relentless. Her lawyer kept pushing to get her half of the house, claiming she contributed equally during our marriage, even with all the evidence against her. She tried to paint herself as the victim, crying about how I was controlling and emotionally abusive, trying to sway the judge's opinion. But I had my own cards, proof of her theft, her affair, her lies. I felt like I was in a war I couldn't afford to lose. One day, I finally got the call I'd been waiting for. My lawyer told me the court was going to order an audit of our finances, including the secret account Lisa had opened. This was huge. It meant we could finally see exactly how much she had stolen and where it had gone. I felt a mixture of relief and fury. Relief, because I knew I'd have the proof I needed to fight her in. Court fury, because I knew she had been so reckless, so selfish, that she'd stolen from her own family. While we waited for the audit results, Lisa's behavior got even more erratic. She started threatening me, saying she'd ruin me if I didn't drop the case. She told everyone I was an unfit father, that I was dangerous, trying to turn friends and family against me. But I refused to give her that satisfaction. I knew the truth, and I was determined to stand firm. I kept gathering more evidence, making sure I had everything documented. I knew she was trying to break me down, but I wouldn't let her. Then the results came back. The audit revealed she had transferred nearly all of the stolen money into her secret account, almost $200, $0 worth. I couldn't believe it. She had been so brazen, so reckless, thinking she could get away with it. That was the final nail in her coffin. I took all the evidence to my lawyer, and we prepared for the final showdown in court. I knew this was it, my chance to expose her fully and fight for what was rightfully mine. Emotionally, I was exhausted. I'd gone from shock to anger to numbness, and now to a kind of cold resolve. I realized I couldn't trust her anymore, not even as a mother to our kids. She'd betrayed everything we once stood for, and I had to protect my children from her chaos. I sat down with my lawyer and planned the last moves, filing for full custody, demanding reimbursement for the stolen money, and making sure she paid for her lies and theft. In the aftermath, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. Relief that I'd finally uncovered the truth, that I had a chance to rebuild my life without her dragging me down. Sadness because I lost so much trust, stability, the wife I once loved. But I also gained clarity. I learned that betrayal can come from the person you trust the most, and that sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail just to stay standing. I'd tell anyone in my position, don't let them get away with it. Gather your evidence, stand your ground, and never underestimate the power of justice. Because at the end of the day, the truth will always come out. The final court date was the most intense day I've ever experienced. I sat in that courtroom, staring at Lisa across from me, her face a mask of false innocence, while I clutched the evidence that proved everything she'd done. The judge listened carefully as my lawyer laid out the case, her affair, the stolen money, her attempts to hide assets, and her lies about the house. When the judge finally looked at Lisa and asked for her side, she tried to deny everything, but her voice was shaky, her lies exposed. The moment the judge announced the verdict, awarding me full custody of the kids, ordering Lisa to pay back every cent she stole, and stripping her of any claim to the house, I felt like I could finally breathe again. All the pain, all the betrayal, was finally being recognized in the only way that mattered. Lisa's face twisted in anger, but there was nothing she could do now. Her lies had been laid bare, her manipulations crushed under the weight of concrete evidence. As I walked out of that courtroom, I felt a strange sense of closure. I had lost a lot: my wife, my trust, a chunk of my savings, and a future I once thought was secure. But I also gained something else: clarity. I learned that sometimes you have to fight tooth and nail for what's right. That betrayal cuts deep, but it can also be a catalyst for rebuild. I realized I'd been through hell, but I was still standing. Today, I'm in the process of rebuilding my life. The house is mine again, and I'm focused on providing a stable environment for my kids. The pain of betrayal still lingers, but it's tempered by the knowledge that I fought for justice. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to pay attention to the small signs before they turn into disasters. And I've come to understand that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply walking away, stronger and more aware than ever before. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, trust your gut. Gather your evidence. Don't let them manipulate or gaslight you. Stand your ground, fight for your truth, and never underestimate your own strength. Because in the end, even the deepest betrayal can lead to a new beginning. And if you keep fighting, you might just come out on the other side, stronger than you ever thought possible.